Hey, it's me, MLV. I have jumped ship back into the Haikyuu fandom to add a few more new and existing one-shots to the collection, and one of the more asked-for characters is our favourite energetic tangerine, Hinata. In this one-shot, we're going to pretend that innocence still exists and that girls and boys teams could stay in the same cabins, just for the convenience sake, so I could add in a cute part. There's no funny business that goes on here. Everyone is just pure, okay? So anyway, let's get to it. He is paired with a female listener in this one, so enjoy. I'm so excited! Hinata bubbled with an animated bounce as he gripped onto the bus seat in front of him, his orange curls flapping madly with each time his butt hit the seat. His wide eyes sparkled as he looked across to you, sitting beside him on the bus, his radiant smile begging you to agree with him. It's just a training camp, you replied dully as you side-glanced at Hinata with a bored expression, then went straight back to looking out the bus window. You and Hinata had basically grown up together. You were inseparable. Your families had been inseparable too, until your parents started to fight a lot, and now Mum had left. Your world had fallen apart after that. Hinata had been the one to get you into volleyball, and you had loved practicing with him and your dad, while your mum cheered you on. Both your mum and dad had always attended your games together, but now neither of them came. Hinata was forever the optimistic, stubborn ball of sunshine and energy, and you used to be similar, but now you'd become a little more cynical and depressed. You had even wanted to give up volleyball, but Hinata had forced you to keep playing, and as annoying as he was with all that excessive energy, you kind of fed off it a little, just enough to keep your head above water, really. If he hadn't been around you, you would have probably curled up and died by now, but he kept you alive with his endless smiles. Deep down, you really wanted to smile and enjoy Hinata's energy, and a long time ago you would have been right there bubbling along beside him, but with all this hurt in your heart these days, how could you? You had heard your parents talking that night your mum left. They had thought you were asleep, but you weren't. "Can't you take her with you? I don't know how to raise a daughter," your dad had said in an exasperated tone to your mum. "You were the one who forced me to have her in the first place. I never wanted to have kids," your mum snapped back before grabbing her things and making for the door. That's when everything had come crashing down on you. You weren't loved anymore. Was it because of you that they were having these issues? It sure felt like it. The bus rolled to a stop as it pulled into the training campgrounds and you stared out at the cabins. "Hey Yin, I bet I can get my bags to our room and set up my bed faster than you can," the orange-haired spunk jeered playfully at you, trying to bait you. "Whatever," you mumbled. Poor Hinata. He had seen the change in you, but he didn't know how to help. You wouldn't talk to him about whatever it was that was making you sad, but he was determined not to give up on you. The bus shuddered as the engine was switched off and the door hissed open. Almost at the same second, Hinata had jumped up and run for the door, running flat out towards the dorm rooms. You watched the orange power pack charge towards the cabins and yank the door open, then jump through the open door, over the threshold and disappear from sight. Heavily you dragged yourself to your feet and pulled your bag onto your back, and then slowly filed out of the bus with the other volleyball players, a mix of your girls' team and the boys from Karasuno. "I'm top bunk," you heard Hinata proclaim loudly as you trudged into the room. "Yin, you sleep under me." You looked up. He was waving frantically at you from the top bunk, still sporting that radiant smile. How is he always so happy, you thought as you silently walked over and put your bag on the bottom bunk. Oh, yeah, it's probably because he has parents who love him. You stood there, staring down at your bag, your face scrunching a little as the internal pain started to rise inside you, threatening to spill tears from your eyes. "Yin?" Hinata asked again, hanging his head and a little of his upper body off the side of the bed and twisting it awkwardly to try and see your face, since you were still looking down. "What?" you kind of snapped, quickly wiping your eyes and turning away. "I said, did you want to go and train together?" he asked. "No," you mumbled. "Come on, let's go. Come with me. I need someone to train with, and you're super duper good at your spikes. You're like, bam, whoosh, zwoosh," he explained, trying to make the movements with his hands, but flailing so hard that he ended up falling off the bed. You jumped with fright as he plummeted to the ground beside you, and you quickly turned to help him up. "What are you doing?" you asked with surprise when he laughed at himself. "I fell off the bed," he laughed. You scowled with concern. "Be careful," you berated him, helping him up. "Come on," he said, refusing to let go of your hand and dragging you with him to the door and off to the gym. You allowed it, but you still weren't into the idea of going to the training. Even just hearing the squeaking of the tennis shoes on the polished wooden floor was enough to give you nausea, the association of being unsupported at your volleyball game springing back to the forefront of your mind. Hinata was on a mission, though, and let go of your hand the second he entered the place, racing over to one of the ball carts and grabbing one out. "Yin, Yin! Here!" he called, waving wildly at you to get you to come over. Sighing morosely, you walked over to him. "What?" you asked glumly. "Here!" He shoved the ball into your stomach and you reflexively grabbed it. "Let's do this!" You sighed again, but followed him to a spare net and started to do whatever he asked you to do. Initially you had not been into it, but the feeling of the ball smacking into the centre of your palm, the exertion of jumping, the thrill of not knowing where the ball was going to go, all started to break you, and with the walls that come crashing down, come tears. You hadn't been aware of it, but with each full-bodied slap of the ball, you let out a little sob, and before you knew it, you were crying. By that point it was only you and Hinata in the gym, and as you smacked the next ball across the net to him, he grabbed it and looked at you. "Yin?" "What?" you snapped, sobbing in ragged breaths. "What's wrong?" he asked with soft inquisitiveness. "Nothing," you replied, panting and wiping tears from your eyes. "Please tell me what's wrong," he asked. "You haven't been yourself since your parents." His voice trailed off. "Would you be?" you asked angrily, all of that internal hurt and frustration pushing behind the tone in your voice. "Would I be what?" he asked, innocently tilting his head curiously. "Would you be okay after hearing you're not wanted, that they wish that you hadn't been born, abandoned at games? It's not fair that they had me and then decided that they didn't want me anymore. I'm a human too, you know. I have feelings." You broke down, dropping to the ground on your knees as the weight of all that pent-up anguish poured out of you. Hinata could see that you were hurting, and dropped the ball to the floor and ran over to you, ducking under the net to get to you. In the pits of your despair, as the darkness was consuming you, suddenly warmth enveloped you, as Hinata fell to the ground in front of you and grabbed you in his arms, holding you tightly. "I don't know what happened," he said softly, "but I'm sorry that I haven't been there for you. I should have made you tell me what was wrong much earlier. I let you suffer for so long on your own." You cried harder. "I'm here now," he added softly, "and I won't let you go." You opened your arms and grabbed him into a hug in return, still crying heavily. "You've always been there, shining," you sobbed. "Please don't stop." "I promise," he said with a sad smile, keeping a firm hold of you as you remained kneeling in the middle of the gym. Sorry, that was a bit of a sad one. That's for everyone that just wants a hug from Hinata. Raise your hand if you want a hug. Yes, a few of you. I expected as much. Stay tuned next week for Kageyama.